Headlines, Friday, the 16th of January, 2009. From Tim Blair, push too far. Former Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Fraser on those modest homemade rockets. It is the kind of weapon used by those who have been pushed too far and basically have no resources. Consider for a second what Hamas would do if it had more resources. Consider what Hamas would do if it had nuclear resources. The planes drop a dragon on us. From Tim Blair. Israeli television mocks the BBC. Update. In its way, this 2006 interview with Hamas leader and supplier of suicide bombers Nizar Rayan is even funnier. Everyone, all the media, says that Hezbollah is wonderful, he complained. We stand with our brothers of Hezbollah, of course, but really, look at the advantages they have. They've got all the rockets they will ever need from Iran. Those Hezbo freeloaders talk about getting an easy ride. Nizar is no fan of Fatah either. It's probably the best that Nizar was recently nudged out of Middle Eastern affairs. Bra worn. The Guardian covers the admission by Bush administration official Susan Crawford that a Gitmo inmate was tortured. Crawford admitted for the first time that torture had been carried out. Until now, the Bush administration, in particular the Vice President, Dick Cheney, had denied the interrogation techniques at Guantanamo constituted torture. Crawford's admission of torture is in relation to the case of a Saudi national, Mohammed al-Qahtani, 30, accused of involvement in the 9/11 attack. He is often referred to by U.S. authorities as the 20th hijacker. He was denied entry to the U.S. in August 2001 and captured in Afghanistan in 2002. He was tortured for a month and then kept in isolation. Crawford, a Pentagon official who last year was put in charge of military commissions that decide whether detainees should be tried, told the Washington Post, "We tortured Qahtani. His treatment met the legal definitions of torture, and that's why I did not refer to the case for prosecution." Qahtani's lawyer, Gita Gutierrez, who works for the New York-based Center for Constitutional Rights, which represents many of Guantanamo's 200-plus inmates, said she thought Qahtani's torture constituted a war crime. The International Red Cross, the only independent body with access to Guantanamo, does not speak about specific cases, but it said yesterday that in general, acts of torture could amount to war crimes. The U.S. will find it difficult to go ahead with any prosecution of Qahtani, given that evidence obtained under torture would be inadmissible. Some within the U.S. have argued that evidence obtained at a later stage and not tainted by torture could still be used. The precise nature of Qahtani's torture is missing from this report, although the word appears often enough. Here is the extent of it. 48 of 54 consecutive days of 18 to 20-hour interrogations. That means he might not have got some weekends off entirely. Standing naked in front of a female agent. One really looks forward to that reenactment. Subject to strip searches, insults to his mother and sister. Playgrounds the world over have got something to answer for. Threatened with a military working dog named Zeus. I don't think it was the name of the dog that offended him, but forced to wear a woman's bra, something which many of his countrymen wear by choice. Had a thong placed on his head. Aside from the 18 to 20-hour questioning, Christopher Hitchens should breeze through this. His reenactment of Qahtani's ordeal is greatly anticipated. Choice offered. Historian Andrew Roberts. The American lady who called to see if I would appear on her radio program was specific. "We're setting up a debate," she said sweetly, "and we want to know from your perspective as a historian whether George W. Bush was the worst president of the 20th century, or might he be the worst president in American history?" "I think he's a good president," I told her, which seemed to dumbfound her and wreck my chances of appearing on her show. Barnaby frenzy. AAP source headline in the Herald Sun. Environmentalism is like Nazism. That was said by Joyce. The item continues. Senator Joyce rejected a suggestion he was a climate change denier and drew a parallel with the Holocaust, the murder of millions of Jews and others by the Nazis during World War II. Climate change denier, like Holocaust denier, this is the sort of emotive language that's become stitched up in this emissions trading issue, he said. It looks more as though Joyce was pointing out parallels drawn by others. Meanwhile, in other Barnaby developments, Queensland opposition leader Lawrence Springborg defends Joyce's enviro views. Nationals leader Warren Truss points out that the word Nazi was introduced to this debate not by Joyce, but by hysterical Labour Agriculture Minister Tony Burke, who is seeking a retraction of something Joyce didn't say. A hurt-sounding Burke says Joyce drew comparisons between responding to climate change and Nazi Germany. Truss wants Joyce to fall into line and play as part of a team. And independent MP Tony Windsor has described Joyce as the Sarah Palin of the North. A curious title given that Palin herself already holds it. PM and GG to take part in a historic event. Prime Minister Kevin Rudd and Governor General Quentin Bryce have announced they will take part in a historic national event on Friday. I'm betting that they're not resigning. Johnny Knoxville detained for a grenade at airport. Jackass star Johnny Knoxville has been detained for allegedly bringing an inert grenade into Los Angeles International Airport. Probably should have tried for a bank. Call for hijab ban backed by retailers. A radio announcer's call for a ban on the Islamic hijab has been backed by the Retailers Association. New York miracle, passengers survive a Hudson River crash. Miraculously, all passengers and crew on a plane that crashed into New York's Hudson River have survived. It is believed a collision with a flock of birds may have caused the accident. Israel to discuss Gaza truce on Washington. And arson, men charged over starting the New South Wales bushfire.